We're ready.
All right, good evening, board members and staff. Welcome to our guests. It is 5:30 p.m. Today is July 21st, 2025, and this meeting of the Fort Smith Public Schools Board of Education is called to order. We have all 7 board members present. Welcome to a couple of new faces. Excited to have you here. Fort Smith Public School board meetings are open to the public. However, audience members are not permitted to speak or interrupt the meeting in any way, and anyone choosing to disrupt the meeting will be asked to leave immediately. Next item on the agenda is the district mission and vision statement. Our mission statement: equip all students with the skills to be productive members of society. And our vision statement: we are a destination district built on relationships, collaboration, and a culture of excellence. Would you please stand with me as we pause for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And now for recognitions. Dr. Bone, please introduce our recognitions for tonight.
Good evening, Dr. Person and board. We have just one recognition this evening, but it is quite a meaningful one. Mr. Gregory Carthen stepped in to serve on Fort Smith Public Schools School Board, representing Zone 4 following a vacancy earlier this year. Although his time with us was brief, Mr. Carthen made a valuable contribution during his service. We are grateful for his commitment to our students, staff, and community, and we'd like to say thank you, Mr. Carthen, and please accept this small token of our appreciation.
All right, we'll move right along. Next item is citizens' participation. We will now open the meeting for public comments. This is a designated time for community members to address the board on matters before us. We have no speakers for tonight, so I'll move right along. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Give Mr. Mahan a second to approach the podium. Mr. Mahan.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. Got several things I'd like to kind of bring to your attention. Real quickly, just an update on cybersecurity breach. We believe the threat's contained. We're working diligently to identify the threat with an outside agency. We'll attempt to expedite restoration of phones and internet. Hopefully this week that will happen. Those are down as a precaution. We're using hotspots for this meeting, and hopefully they'll function well. We won't have any clunkiness. We are prepared to live stream this with hotspots and also record it with a backup recording. So if we do lose the live stream, we'll put that on our website as soon as possible so the public can see the meeting. But I also want to start tonight by just saying welcome to our new board members, Ms. Brittany Hall, Ms. Maria Martinez, and Mr. Brad Harding. Appreciate you very much for your desire to serve our community, and look forward to working alongside you to lead this district. I also like to welcome a couple of new cabinet members since we last met. I was telling Leslie today, last time when we met, we took cover from a tornado. This time we're meeting during the cyber event, so we'll see what happens next month. But I want to recognize our newest Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Bone, Executive Cabinet member. And to her right, our new Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum Instruction, Dr. Kelly Mitten. I'd also like to thank all of our district administrative teams. I'm very proud to tell you we've absorbed 3 district administrative positions this summer in the last couple of months. We absorbed Director of Coordinated School Health. That person retired, and so we're not going to fill that position. We're going to absorb that, get a little leaner in district administration. We also absorbed Supervisor of Assessment and Support Services, and a supervisor of curriculum and professional development. I want to thank my team because when you absorb staff, someone will still provide those services. So we will continue to provide those services in a different venue, a different avenue, but we will continue to kind of model lean operations and high expectations from the service center, and that's one of our first steps in doing that. And so I'm proud of our team in making this happen. As far as your consent agenda, just one thing to draw to your attention. Certainly all of those things deserve your attention, but the policies you'll see, there's multiple policies that have been updated. Those are a result of new legislation, new laws from the most recent legislative session. So we'd like to adjust those accordingly, and we have a partnership with ASBA to get updates based on new legislation and changes as needed. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. I also want to remind you we will have a work session on August 18th. Really the focus point of that work session will be around making sure you fully understand our budget and are prepared to vote on that during our August regular meeting. And also really want to make sure you understand a grant opportunity for noise mitigation with the city around noise mitigation at Orr Learning Academy and Carnell Elementary. What that looks like is improved windows, improved doors, roofing, HVAC, a multitude of systems that would be allowable with the grant money. But just wanted to put that in the work session so you could have ample time to look through that, ask questions, and fully understand that before we bring it to you for approval in the August board meeting. Also want to touch base on the federal funds update. Currently, there are $6.8 billion in federal funds that have been frozen. They were promised to be here for July 1, starting our budget. Of course, it affects all of the entities across the nation in public schools. Fort Smith Public Schools is set to, we have $1.6 million that's frozen currently that we had budgeted for this year. One impact here locally is the 21st Century Community Learning Centers. That's a grant. We're hearing that money may be released and may even have happened today. I'm not positive, but that has a big impact on some of the community programming that we are providing, not just as a district, but as a community organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs and things of that nature. The programs that also will be affected if these funds continue to be frozen are after school, summer learning, English language learner support, teacher training, academic enrichment, and low-income and migrant student resources and education. Statewide, if you break that number down just for the state of Arkansas, it's a $58 million impact across the states of the schools of Arkansas. Some of the smaller schools will probably scramble and struggle even more so than some of the larger districts, although it will be difficult for us. The effect on our district is it creates some uncertainty around our budget. We'll have to start assessing after-school programming and learning, and hopefully we will figure out ways to sustain that this year, but we may have to have discussions in the future about things we eliminate. Title programs will be affected around, our migrant and English language learners, professional development, our recruitment and retention programming, and a large one is all of our concurrent credit is paid for through these funds, whether we're giving concurrent credit through UAFS. A large part of that funding that allows us to pay for that for our students comes from these federal funds. So we'll have to analyze that accordingly as we learn more around these funds that are frozen in the future. And moving from frozen to hot, just want to let you know I'll try to keep you updated about the effect of wet bulb on our activities and athletics. Our athletics and activities department do a really good job of ensuring that we monitor the temperature and the risk factors to our young people, and we will reschedule or cancel accordingly. We want to make sure the circumstances for our students are healthy. I don't want to put them at risk. So I just want to let you throw that out there publicly. If things happen, it becomes difficult to reschedule or it causes some conflict, just know we're monitoring wet bulb and taking all precautions for the health and safety of our students. Things to know around opening the school. It's very quickly approaching, very excited. We do have some construction things that will cause a little bit of disbursement of students and parking. Pretty big project at Southside around Ruth. Our facilities folks and the principal have met around how we might need to move students around the first part of the school year. Peak has some driveway area that's torn up with some repairs we're doing there. Of course, you see the bus transportation lot is getting close to about 50% complete, but there'll still be some buses parked out at Ramsey for quite a time in the fall. May 18th storm damage, we still have a lot of HVAC units, roofs, and things from the May 18th storm that are underway. And then the first week, I want to just be proactive. We always have drop-off and pickup congestion at our schools. Usually takes a week to 2 weeks for our community to kind of learn the best method for drop-off and pickup. Same with our lunches. Our lunches are usually pretty backed up the first week. Kids are learning what to pick and how quickly to move, but we'll extend time as needed. Our principals are phenomenal at adjusting that to make sure our kids get to eat. But you may hear some of those concerns, and they're very valid concerns. I also want to quickly update you on a few 100-day plan things, not all of the plan, but just a few things. Currently conducting one-on-one meetings with all of our building principals. Want to commit to you all tonight a 24-hour turnaround time with concerns or issues you bring to my attention is at least a response. It may be that I need more time, but you should always expect a 24-hour turnaround time. Also working on scheduling quarterly department of district meetings where we will have a department present to you. You learn the inner workings of the district. Also, we'll have 3 Meet the Superintendent events that are coming up right away, and I want to do more that are formally completed by us, but I will be speaking at the First Friday Breakfast for the Chamber August 1st, and I'll have a time for Q&A, and we'll also have QAR code set up to get feedback from our business leaders on things they like to see with our district, things they like to celebrate, and things they might want to challenge us with. Also, we'll have a Q&A leadership breakfast with the civic leadership. A gentleman named Mark Allen organizes that at the Kavanaugh Center. And then I'm also scheduled to speak at Noon Exchange. All of these will be a presentation and, more importantly, some Q&A and also access to the public around their school system. I've already established executive cabinet. Then we meet weekly just to kind of look at the vision for the week, make sure we're all on the same page. And those are some things, a few things from the 100-day plan. A few things around the goals. Goal 1.1, comprehensive communication and marketing plan. Hopefully you've heard some pieces on the radio. Just completed a draft of our hype video. I'm very excited about that. We'll do some tweaks to that, but that'll get its debut on August the 1st and at our Launch for Learning as well as our nuts and bolts. And then we will continue we have some draft surveys to get input on what best ways to communicate with our staff, students, and parents. Those things will be going out very quickly too. I already mentioned our quarterly town halls are underway to get those scheduled, with some already taking place. And then this week, I'd invite you, and I'm very excited about our new nuts and bolts meeting around all of our administrators and leaders around policies, practices, and things that are very important for them to know throughout the year. It'll be very interactive, and we do hope we have internet back up because it's very essential, but we'll have to figure out a plan if we don't. But I would invite you to be a part of that. I also have some good things. You see some pictures up there. I'm very excited. I got around this summer to check out some of these things. These are exciting events that we offer in the summer to our students. This is the Full Steam Ahead Camp. It was a success. Students grades 2 through 4 participated in hands-on STEAM activities and engineering design process while building key 21st century skills like collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking. Campers had a blast exploring science, technology, engineering, art, math through fun, engaging projects. We're proud of the young learners and excited to see how they use these skills in the future. It was really neat to go see that at Fairview Elementary. We also had Pink Summer Camps. We hosted a variety of summer camps that were focused on hands-on, career-focused camps for secondary students. From art, photography to construction, health science, and coding, students explored different careers, fun, and engaging ways. Highlight included building a custom phone stands, learning about healthcare, and racing their own construction projects. A very neat opportunity for our kids. As always, we're always proud of our summer meals programs. It's a very complex system, and our child nutrition group does a phenomenal job of making sure our kids and families have access to breakfast and lunch. We had 12 sites across the district. Almost 6,000 breakfasts were served, and 13,639 lunches were served to our families, and we're very excited about that. Also, just real quickly before I go over some dates, we hopefully you come by my office and you'll see a nice, beautiful painting done by art students at the Emerging Art Program. I think I sent you a picture. Sent that students a thank you card for their great work, and a teacher. One of the students replied back, "Dear Mr. Mahan, I'm so glad you enjoyed the painting. It's fantastic having Miss Marr at Peak. She allows our creativity to flow. Peak is truly an amazing school for artists like myself, and I'm incredibly grateful for the chance to have it as a second home. I love creating for others, especially groups of people. Peak has given me the freedom to express myself in ways I never have before. Thank you for your kind card. Best regards. And so just a note to you all that your leadership provides these programs to happen. And I always think things don't happen by accident. There's intention, and it's great leadership that you all provide that give these students these opportunities. So that's very rewarding. And lastly, Fort Smith Public Schools School-Based Health Center Open House this week, July 23rd, 1:30 to 4, kind of come and go. 1:30 we'll start it off. Nuts and Bolts, the 24th and 25th at Peak all day. Breakfast of Champions, our Partner in Ed event, will take place on the 31st of July from 8 to 10:30 a.m. at Peak. And our board training is the 31st of July from 5:30 to 8:30 at the Bakery District. Mentioned earlier, First Friday Breakfast on August the 1st, 7:30 to 8:30. If you're interested in going, let Leslie know and she'll get you a ticket. New Teacher Orientation, August the 1st, 9:30 at Peak. Our new teachers come together. Great time to meet them. You're welcome to attend that. And our Launch for Learning will be a real exciting time on the 7th of August, 8 to noon, probably more like 8 to 11, 11:30 in Southside Arena, and we'll get everybody revved up for a new school year. And then, of course, I mentioned our board work session on the 18th. Any questions I might be able to answer? Okay, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Mahan. And I will note that the 21st Century Grants were authorized for release today, which is great for the Teen Center here in Fort Smith. Move right along to the consent agenda. Board members, particularly our new members, the entire consent agenda is voted up or down as a whole unless a board member asks to remove any of the particular items for independent discussion. Board members, would you like to remove any of these items for independent discussion? Seeing none, go right ahead, Mr.
Yes, I'd like to review or remove the ethics disclosure resolution. I have some questions on that. And then I do have a question on one of the policies that'll be reviewed or that are on the agenda.
So the student-related policy changes?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, all right. We will then remove the ethics disclosure resolution and the student-related policy changes. Any other items for independent consideration? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Consent agenda passes by a unanimous vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Now the items that have been removed, which are items 8.4 and 8.5. Mr. Harding, the floor is yours.
On the ethics disclosure resolution, I understand that what was disclosed is a family member of a staff that has a potential contractor or vendor, and then but also a staff member. And I didn't see any information on what type of services or just more about that for us or for me to review and approve that disclosure.
Charles can come speak to that. As he comes forward, I'll let you know our district has traditionally gone over and above the law in this regard, but there's new legislation that I'm glad you brought this out because we'll talk about, I believe, in August or September, where it'll even be expanded a little more around principals and assistant principals. But Mr. Warren, can you speak to that question, please?
Certainly. The first contract disclosure form that is completed is Ms. Barnes. Ms. Barnes is an employee that is not a full 12-month employee, so that means she is not under contract during the summer. We potentially would like to contract with her to do word processing. In other words, there is a good-sized document that needs to be updated, and so the need was for that to be outsourced to her to utilize her expertise. So she is an employee providing independent contract work for the district. Can I answer any other questions you might have specifically to that one before I move on to the next one?
You said that was for the summer months, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is being done while she is off contract.
Okay.
The next disclosure form is for a district-wide administrator. Dr. Yancey has a family member that is providing moving services, the ability to move furniture and equipment that needed to be outsourced. And so as a district-wide administrator, she has the opportunity to select that, and she had a reliable resource, which was her brother. And so there is a request from her to be able to engage with that family member and his company to provide that moving. And we've also listed his other company, which I think has some mitigating circumstances where he might be able to provide some disaster mitigation, in other words, cleaning up after a rainfall or something like that. And so just giving them the opportunity to be able to be bid or to be engaged in a contract as the district requires or needs. Can I answer any more specific questions regarding that one?
What type of procurement or bidding process does the district follow?
The procurement process is one that is staged according to the amount that you're dealing with. And so there are very specific state laws and procurement rules for anything really above a dollar threshold that changes annually, and that dollar threshold is typically $26,500. And so that requires a very specific a bidding process. Anything under that is relied upon the district. And as a district, we have set up procedures so that we try our best to provide some bidding opportunities for anything that is $10,000 and above. Anything less than $10,000 is truly open to the requester. They are responsible for going out and trying to determine what is a reasonable cost for this service or for this product. And they'd still be reviewed by their supervisor, but it does not require the attention of the superintendent or from my standpoint. Now, any fixed asset, which is a commodity or a tangible product that is over $1,000, is going to be reviewed by either me or it will be reviewed by our director of technology if it is a technology-related item. So that gives you the tiered substance of what the structure is. There are still internal controls in place so that a supervisor would oversee or confirm, yes, this is a reasonable cost and this is a reasonable vendor to work with.
Charles, would you also talk about, just a little briefly, about Sole Source and Arkansas Tips as well, just briefly?
Certainly, I'll do my best. We have a supervisor of purchasing who would step up to the mic and do it much more eloquently than I can, but I will point out that there's an acronym called TIPS, TIPS, and it basically is a purchasing cooperative. In other words, a purchasing cooperative, TIPS or others that may stand, get involved with the state, and the state says, you've done the procurement that we require. And if you've done that work as a cooperative, then whenever you assign whatever work that you do, if you have a vendor that is a TIPS vendor, then you do not have to find outside vendors to bid against that, because the bidding has taken place inside the cooperative agreement. And so if a TIPS contract is awarded, usually you'll see that TIPS agreement number inside a bid, and it means that the procurement, at least what the state of Arkansas requires, has been fulfilled. The other one that you wanted to ask was about sole source. Sometimes that can be a misleading term, because it indicates that there's only one place that we can get this, when in reality what has probably happened, while there may be very limited vendors that provide this service, it could be that the vendors have a very unique approach to a programming or a service that they provide. One of the best examples I might share with you is electronic storage. We have had an electronic storage vendor for probably over a decade. It was originally created when we did an RFP, a request for proposal, and we gathered information from electronic storage companies. And we found that under that process, we selected what we thought was the best one. That vendor has remained a good vendor for us. And every year, even though that original RFP period that might have been for a 3-year period, because the district has invested so much time and training into the use of that specific electronic storage, allows us to say this is really potentially a sole source vendor. While there may be another vendor, this is the one where we focused our time and attention on, and we've invested quite a bit of funds already. That doesn't mean that if we're dissatisfied with a vendor, that we can't pull that back and say, you know what, yes, that was a sole source vendor, but we don't like the service that they provided, or we think that the product has fallen off. And so we're going to pull that back into a normal RFP request for proposal procurement. But sole sources, we try to review each year, what are those vendors that may be that we've invested long-term investment money into, administrative and training, that we really need to stay with this vendor because we do not have a good purpose, or we have not found that the marketplace has changed in the it is still a reasonable cost that we're assuming. And so we would fill out sole source paperwork to document why we believe it's still a good idea to keep with this electronic storage company, even though there are competitors out there in the marketplace always knocking on our door saying, hey, why don't you try us? We want to be your electronic storage device. I gave you that as an example, and it was very long-winded, but it's a complicated process. They'll have none of the giggling back there. I heard that. Did I answer your question? Do you think I've answered, Mr. Mann, what we wanted to try to accomplish here?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And the other item were policy-related questions?
The questions I have are regarding the personal electronic device policy for students, or the no cell phone policy. I know we have a presentation towards the end of the meeting. I can ask my questions during that. I don't know how that works with approving or moving the agenda around, but my questions are regarding that policy.
Do you have questions that may pertain to wanting to modify the policy?
Yes.
Okay, then now is probably the appropriate time to ask those.
So my question, I have two questions. Some of the wording in the policy is around Bluetooth connected devices, and I understand that it's without limitation, but do we want to specify technology or wearable technology that is yet to become readily available? Whether it's a step tracker or some sort of heart rate monitor, even if it's not necessarily medically prescribed, reading glasses that may be Bluetooth enabled. Do we want to include any, or I guess we should, I guess I'm looking for further definition around particularly smartwatch / wearable technology.
Okay.
Dr. Farrell?
And to make sure we're all on the same page, is this policy 4.47?
Yes. Yes, the current policy that stands today is 4.47. The one under review, that is the one that I have questions over, the red line or the suggested.
So just so you know where, by the way, I don't know if we've met, I'm Marshall Nye, I'm the lawyer. So what generally happens is the ASBA does the initial heavy lifting with these policies because, they track, they keep uniform policies, they make modifications, and then the district, including Dr. Farrell, review and decide what to adopt. So what you would generally see in one of these policies would be the minimum standards. The minimum requirements of the law would be what is present in this policy. If you wanted to go beyond that and have additional restrictions, that is within the discretion of the board to engage in that type of policy making. In fact, it's your primary job is policy making. So, that would be, I think, really more of a engagement with the board of of, are there additional restrictions that you would like to have? And then if the answer is yes, we likely would pull the policy denied as opposed to try to engage in drafting on the fly and then present a revised policy at the next meeting. So I think the way you started it is exactly right, to share with your peers, kind of what the concept is, and then, you all can decide if you do want a more strenuous, more restrictive policy, and then Dr. Farrell and his team, with my support, can get together and try to map to that and provide you another draft.
I like that approach. I think that would be ideal because I foresee questions from parents or even athletic coaches that may want to track their athletes' steps or heart rate throughout the day for highs and lows. And I think that'll become an issue that if we can be proactive, I think that'd be very helpful.
So in particular, let's drill this down a little bit. What I'm hearing is that the definition of a personal electronic device is what you want to clarify or potentially make exceptions to? Is that
Correct.
right? And specifically, what would you like us to modify about this policy?
So you have this language
Probably further define smartwatch
without limitation.
because that could be a range of, again, that connected device.
So smartwatch.
And then probably exceptions
Yeah, so is that not?
for,
Yeah, so smartwatch is in here.
again, Bluetooth-enabled wearables. And I'm thinking particularly athletes, coaches, parents that want to track heart rate constantly throughout the day. As a parent of athletes, that is something that has crossed my mind.
So there are some exceptions already built into the policy, it looks like. We've got these 4 bullet points. If it's part of a IEP or a 504, or for health reasons, if it's during an emergency, if it's issued by the district for the student's use during the school day, or if it's during a special event during the school day. So with those exceptions in mind, how could we better define an additional exception?
Yeah, so athletic performance, would that fall under individual health plan or for health reasons? And I'm looking to Mr. Nye, and sorry, what was your name?
Probably.
Farrell, Mr. Farrell.
Probably not. And so I think I was kind of following you in a different direction. So you're actually looking for more exceptions as opposed to more restrictions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be correct.
Okay, so I've pulled up the act so that I can review this at the same time.
I will say, Marshall, my only concern with pulling it is we probably want this in effect before the school year starts.
True.
And is it my understanding, I mean, this is the bare minimum required by the law, correct?
It is the bare minimum required by
So
the law.
if this is required by the law, then I feel like I agree that we need to have it approved and other exceptions could be made later if we deem necessary. But if this is required by law, I don't know that we have a whole lot of wiggle room at this moment. But if you're looking, you look and tell us.
So, my quick review is that the exceptions are specifically the exceptions that are defined in the statute. And I do think that those exceptions are as I'm reading this, probably the minimum required exceptions. And so I don't know that we could, by adding another exception, I actually think we might be running afoul of the actual language. I would suggest, Mr. President, if you all could just hold on this one to a little later in the agenda and let me just spend a few more times considering the question and reading the act again. I am going to be standing back up when we're talking about Act 503 and term limits, and maybe when I stand back up for that, I can address this a little further, if that would be appropriate.
Yes, Ms. Hall.
Yeah, no green light.
Sorry.
I think I understand what he's saying, for athletic purposes. So could there be an exception for the students when they're participating in their athletic class during the day, whether it be some kind of device that tracks the heart rate while they're at football practice, or tracks their speed or their heart rate or their blood pressure when they're running 3 miles during their track class period, where it could, you see what I'm saying? I think, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, there's advantage, and again, not just track, but there's advantage to tracking some vitals through wearable technology constantly during the day and night, and that can help give a coach or a doctor indications on athletic performance if it's tracked constantly.
Let's do this. I'm sorry, would you like to add?
Just thinking back to my principal days, I feel like, but it still may be some need to be more specific, so don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But I feel like as a building principal, they will really be focused on those devices that are being used to communicate and are disruptive. I don't think they're going to expand how they implement restrictions on all wearables if it's not disruptive, like what you're asking, like this is a Fitbit, but I can't text with it or anything. Mm-hmm. But I like to see, how am I doing in my range and things like that. I don't foresee a situation where any of our principals would address something like that. It's going to be so much more difficult to just keep what they're going to use to communicate from being a distraction. And but I understand the need for more specificity. But just being honest, how it will be implemented will be probably those things that would be disruptive and used to text and communicate in class.
I mean, that's a cost.
Can we do this, because we do have a presentation and to allow legal counsel further time to review the statute, could I entertain a motion to table the pulled consent agenda items to follow item 17, which is presentation, bell-to-bell no-cell update, so that we can further discuss and potentially vote on this policy as well as the other pulled item following that presentation? Does that work for the board? Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. We'll revisit this following that presentation item. Thank you for the discussion.
Thank you.
I'll just tell you, I have just a couple of quick thoughts. So one thing in the policy, and I was trying to have a little sidebar and see if this would apply, but it says that a student shall be deemed to not be in possession of a personal electronic device if the device is in the student's bag, as long as they are not reaching into the bag to access it during the school day, except as permitted by law when removing it from the bag to access. So I think theoretically that exception, if you were simply trying to track vitals and whatever was tracking it was in a backpack and the backpack was with the student but the student didn't access it, then it would be a permissible use. It would be a permissible use because they wouldn't be deemed to be in possession. The other thing that is in the law, as I was reading quickly, is if it was important to monitor a specific athlete, if a device, now this is an expense, but if a device was issued to the athlete by the district for a period of time, that also would be a permissible device because it was issued by the district. So I actually, without changing the policy, I'm seeing a couple of pathways to get at what you're saying. So just for thought.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm making a note for myself, so if I forget, y'all better catch me. Consent agenda. Okay, next item on the agenda is the election of officers. Mr. Mahan? I'm sorry.
I don't know that we actually, did we make a motion and act on the ethics resolution? That was an actionable item. It was part.
They both were pulled.
Both were pulled.
simultaneously.
It's going to be, thank you.
So do we have to
be-
vote on them both together as full?
Election of officers. Mr. Mahan.
Let's see here. This is the opportunity tonight to create a new slate of officers, president, vice president, and secretary. And I'll open it up to the floor to have discussions on what those nominations may look like.
All right, board members, any questions, motions? Anybody want to come out the gate, have ideas?
So I will say, new board members, Lynette and I were like deer in the headlight last year when we did this because we had no idea how this worked, because we can't have any discussions about this outside of this room. So I will just throw out there and say, one, it's hard to put it out there when we haven't been able to talk about it and who's willing to do what. I would like to put out a motion for Dalton Person to continue as president, Phil Whitaker to continue as vice president, and I would be willing to serve as secretary if the board so chooses.
There's a motion on the floor. It needs everyone willing to serve.
Right, that's the hard part. Are y'all willing to stick around and do this?
I will
Okay.
do one more year.
Okay. That's good to know. You
That
didn't
was
have
going to be
say
my
that out
question,
loud.
is
Okay,
are
okay.
you willing to?
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a slate of officers that's been proposed, been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. That passes unanimously by a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Thank you, Ms. Kraft, for your motion, and for your Mr. Whitaker's willing to serve. The next item on the agenda is to consider the designation of board dispersing officers. Mr. Mahan?
Yes, this will require two different motions. And Mr. Warren, if you'll come forward and lead us through the designation of dispersing officers, please.
Basically, what the dispersing officer is this is the school board member of record that would be the signer or the authorizer of disbursements. Basically, that's the person, the signature would be electronically and digitally utilized to be attached to accounts payable checks as well as payroll direct deposits. That is what the dispersing officer, there is a history that it has been the president, and the alternate dispersing officer is the vice president. That's the history of it. It is it is a school board member that is considered the dispersing, the ability, has the authorization to disperse funds for the district.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Any questions on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to nominate President Dalton Person as primary board dispersing officer and Vice President Philip Whitaker as alternate board dispersing officer to serve until the next annual election.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lott. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. And that passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is to entertain a motion to adopt the attached resolution, which actually designates President Dalton Person as the primary board dispersing officer and Vice President Philip Whitaker as alternate board dispersing officer to serve until the next annual election. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lott. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand, and that passes by a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Thank you, Board. Next item on the agenda is to consider adopting the term links for school board elections pursuant to Act 503. Mr. Mahan.
Yes, new legislation requires that you as a board decide to go with 4-year terms moving forward or 6-year terms. Currently, we operate with 5-year terms, but legislation has changed that. I've asked Marshall to kind of talk through that and bring a little bit of an analog presentation about what that would look like for 6 years, and also a recommendation of how we would recommend we pursue this change. Marshall?
So I was told this would be a low-tech meeting tonight, so I brought paper, and I'm going to hand it out to you. So what I've captured at the top, so it's Act 503, and it's a pretty lengthy act, but what I've done is I've captured kind of the major changes in the top box. I won't read it to you. It's pretty straightforward. And then what I have done is shown you what the impact of the law is on your terms. And so the 3 board members of your group is 3 of our 7 are impacted on the terms. So 2 of them, I guess 3 terms have been shortened as a result of the law. The major change is the ones at the top. We're now either 4 years or 6 years, and we now have elections every other year. I personally, having been a serving board member myself, felt like 6 years was exceptionally long to commit. And I had intended to come to you all and recommend that you go with 4-year terms. But the problem is I think a 4-year term would be a substantial hardship on the district, because you would have to limit the number of elections you have to turn over the entire board to 2 elections. You'd have to elect 4 in 1 year, you'd skip a year, and then you'd have to elect 3. And I can just tell you that having the continuity of people serving for a period of time is a net benefit and very healthy for a district. And so we don't want to be having everybody in election mode and turning over half the board every other year. And even if it's not turned over every other year, it's at least competitive every other year. And that is, to me, a distraction. And so, at the risk of putting a bigger burden on you than you may desire, I think it would be beneficial to the district if this board would commit to 6-year terms. Now, we are not triggering the part of the law that would require us to turn over the whole board. In fact, we don't even have to draw lots, because just by applying the law, it comes out with 2 or 3, 3, and 2 in terms of, or did I do that right? 2, 2, and 3 in terms of how the elections would be. So we'd have 2 people up 1 year, you'd skip a year, you'd have 2 up, you'd skip a year, you'd have 3 up. But you'd always have that continuity. And so what I would recommend, and it's the one thing that we need to do tonight, is that you all need to have discussion on the 4 or the 6. And if you agree with the 6, someone should make a motion to set the terms at 6 years.
Thank you, Mr. Nye. Board members, questions, thoughts? I can get us rolling. 6 years is a long time for a term. For just thinking through this, I'm the longest serving board member, and I've done this 5 years. And I am the longest serving board member at 5 years. Just in general, the politics and the environment about this has changed significantly in the last 5 years. And so 6 years is a really long time. That being said, I think it's just best for the district. And I'm done in a year anyway, so. So I would recommend that we move to 6-year terms.
One consideration for a 4-year term is, I understand it's burdensome on the district, but it does hold us accountable to our constituents. The longer a public servant is in office, the more complacent they get. That's human nature. And so a shorter term forces accountability. And so that's one consideration. I know it's burdensome, but that may be worth it for the public and our community.
I would share on that point, if I may, that there is some new accountability in the law, not in this act as I recall, but generally a board member can now be recalled, much like a governor can be recalled. It used to be that the only 2 ways that a board member could be removed is a felony or you miss 3 meetings. That was it. So there are some provisions in the law now that do provide additional accountability to the public and to each other. And so that is, I believe, a net gain for the institution of school boards. And so there is more accountability now.
Right, board, other thoughts? Someone want to make a motion to adopt a policy whereby All board members of the school board shall be elected to a term of office of 6 years or 4 years. Your pleasure.
The chart that you gave us, is this for 4 years or 6 years?
This is for 6,
This is for 6, okay. I just
Yes.
wanted to make sure. Okay.
yes.
This is changing to a 6-year term.
Yes. Yeah, and so what it would show if we, well, these are the new expirations, and so what we would have to do,
I'm just trying to figure out how Maria's, like, Maria, your expiration is 2026 on here.
because filling a term.
Because you're filling in a term.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that's why, and so what we would end up doing is, Brittany and Brad, I think would have to move from 2030 to 2028. Or we would either have to do that, or we would just, well, that's probably how we would need to do it. I would have to think through it, but we would have to elect all 7 within that 2-year period. I mean, we'd have to be in every other, turning it all over. And so that's what would probably, we would probably end up with 2 at 2028, or we'd have 4 at 2028 and 3 at 2026, I think is how that would end up being.
Okay.
I would have to think through,
And that's if we went to 4. Is that what you're talking through right now?
yeah, because you can only spread to, if we went to 4, it would either be those 2 would move to 2028, or everyone would have to draw lots to see who got 2 and who got 4, those terms. But we would have to line it up, again, where it would happen all in 2 elections. And I would need to go back and study it a little bit. Right now, we don't have to do any drawing of lots if we go 6-year, because it just falls perfectly with the law.
Well, if it goes 6 years, then wouldn't mine and Brad's go to 2031 if we were just elected in 25?
You would go to 20, so there will be no elections in 20,
Odd number.
in odd
Oh,
years.
that's right. You said, okay,
Yes,
yeah.
correct. Correct. But in 2030, you would go until 2036.
Well, Mr. Nye, what are you hearing with larger districts?
I think most people see the wisdom of doing the 6-year terms. I mean, just for what it's worth, I served, I guess, 9 or 10 years. So it was 2 terms. It was, I was appointed, filled a term, ran for a full term, ran for a full second term, and retired after the end of so I had basically 2 terms. I think they were 4-year terms in Bentonville, so I served 2 4-year terms and the balance of a 1-year term, so I served essentially 9 years.
This is my
Yeah.
this is my 4th year on the board, and it seems like every year we entertain some sort of conversation about school board term limits. Do you foresee an end to this conversation at any point in time? Because our friends down in Little Rock don't seem to make any term limits for themselves, but
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the last time that you guys did this, when we had to rezone the entire district, it was to 5 years, correct? So now we're just talking about 1 more year. You say 6 years, you look at 2030 and then 2036, and that seems forever
Yeah.
away. But if we were already doing the 5 years, we're talking about 1. You know what I mean?
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
That 1 more year from a 5-year term is not terrible. If it, because I like that it's going to fall. I don't want to completely replace a board. I agree that having the institutional knowledge and somebody who's been here long enough to, like I said, I keep making jokes because Lynette and I were like deer in the headlights this time last year. And so it's hard to get your feet underneath you and figure out all of these things pretty quickly. I would be okay. I realized, thinking about all this, I'd served 6 years on a nonprofit board, and it went by faster than I thought it would. I mean, it was busy, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't terrible. I think that 6 years is doable. I agree. If we already committed to 5, I'm okay with 6. And I like that there's a recall option. I like that there is an opportunity, if we do happen to have a bad egg, that there's an opportunity to I don't think we have any bad eggs, but that there is an opportunity if we need to do that.
Ms.
And
Kraft, do you
there
wanna-
is some other accountability to the public, and that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. But if one of you were to resign and there was going to be a new board member appointed, there used to be no process. It was totally within the discretion of the board. And now the legislature has passed a process where you get public engagement. You have a very specific process that you have to follow, including the solicitation and taking of applications and review and a much more robust process to fill an open vacancy.
I think that's good. That's how y'all got stuck with me.
It's been a blessing.
Oh, thank you.
Ms. Kraft, based on your prior comments, you want to make a motion?
I'm reading it. Hang on. Motion to approve Fort Smith Public Schools Board of Education adopt a policy whereby all members of the school board shall be elected to a term of office of 6 years.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Further discussion from the board? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. That passes unanimously by a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Thank you, Mr. Nye. Thank you, board, for a good discussion. We'll move right along to agenda item number 12. Up next, we will consider approving the child nutrition meal prices. Mr. Mahan.
Yes, we need to update our meal prices, and we got some recommendations to bring to you. And I'd like to ask Miss Grace George to come front. She's the leader behind the great child nutrition program we have in this district. We're very proud of, and she has a proposal to present to you.
Yay. Thank you for having me this evening. Thank you to committing to 6 years on that. I'm also committed to at least the next 6 years, so I hope as a human resource. So I appreciate that. I want to thank Mr. Mahan for acknowledging the work that the child nutrition program is doing at the summer meals, serving almost 20,000 meals in a short period of time to students who need those. Is a very important mission, and we appreciate that opportunity to do that, and thank you for that recognition. As we're looking at getting ready for the next school year, we're looking at the meal price recommendations, and I just wanted to go through some basic steps that we consider when we're looking at those meal price recommendations. I have not used this PowerPoint before. Yay. Okay, so the meal price considerations, when we look at those increased cost of purchased foods and supplies for the 25-26 school year, we are a federally funded program, but that does not mean we get cuts on groceries. So everything is going up, and it has been for a few years. Supplies, equipment, we're all getting hit with that. Increased cost of labor for the 25-26 school year. There's been a few changes. We are very thankful for those increases and that approved cost for my staff. Ending balance of the child nutrition, or what we call the CN fund, it's the 8,000 fund as of June 30th, 2024. That's not a misprint. When we start considering meal price increases, we kind of look at the ending balance of last year to see where our fund is, and then because generally we're not ending when we start looking at the increase for the following year. So 2025 had not ended when we started looking at meal price increase for the next school year. So based on that, if a school district or a child nutrition fund receives any supplemental funds from the general fund, then it becomes a recommendation of increase based on a paid lunch equity, which is the what we call the PLE tool from the federal government. This is a USDA federal tool that we use. It has calculations, it has formulas, and we use that to determine maybe a required price increase based on some of those our previous price costs that we charge our students. So the meal cost is within a specific meal frame. It asks questions and it gets information about how many meals did you serve between a specific period, and it takes actually the October of this past year's paid meal cost and how many we actually served. So in that tool, then it says what we have in terms of the meals. And so I'm going to go over the last 3 years. I won't read all these to you. You can look at that. The price requirements are based on a 2% increase plus the consumer price index of 4.03%. And when we're looking at the weighted average. Our weighted average for this past school year was $2.89. So if you look back and you look at the school year and the weighted average previous year, that is the weighted average requirement, and we still have not gotten to that weighted average requirement or recommendation, because we don't want to throw a large number at our families. We don't want to say, hey, we're going to increase meals by 75 cents. There have been school districts that have done that a few years ago, and I think there was some negative comments, and so I don't want to do that. So you kind of do it a little bit at a time. It's been 2 years since a recommendation was made and approved, and that was the 25 cents for the school year 23-24. Before then, it had been 2018 since Fort Smith Public Schools had approved an increase, or an increase was brought before the board. So last year, again, it's one of those things where you don't really want to do it every year. Sometimes it is necessary. We did not change pricing last year, but are coming to you for this year to ask for an approval of the increase of 25 cents per meal. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to look at some of the area schools and what their recommended increases are. This is after talking with directors from other schools. And then I honestly do not know whether this has gone before their board and if these have been approved or not, but in talking with them, this is the information I received a couple of weeks ago. So we're pretty much in line with where the other school districts are headed. So what we are asking, and what I'm asking, is the paid meal price recommendation for lunch for elementary goes from $2.75 to $3. The secondary lunch, $3 to $3.25 for an increase of 25 cents. And then for breakfast is universally free. We do not charge. Fort Smith Public Schools has not charged before it was actually a law to say we're not going to charge. So that's great. However, we do have students at the high school that want a second breakfast, and that is not reimbursed. So if they want a second breakfast, I'm not recouping any federal funds for that. So we do have to charge for a second meal, and that would be $2. And so I'm asking for a 50-cent increase. It's been at $1.50 for a little while. So are there any questions or any thoughts that I can help you with?
Ms. Chardy?
What percentage of our students are on free or reduced lunch?
We are at about 78% when school ended, and due to the fact that Medicaid free and reduced was established April 1st, it increased significantly at that time.
And this increase would simply just impact parents paying for lunch. It doesn't change our food costs for those free and reduced lunch students, correct?
This is for full paid students.
Mm-hmm.
So those that are not eligible or were denied or did not turn in an application
Okay.
would be charged a full-priced meal.
One more question.
Sure.
Last time we raised lunch price or the increase, did we see a reduction in paid lunch or any overages of food prep?
Overages in food prep?
Meaning we expected so many students or parents to pay for a school lunch. They saw the increase and said, nope, I'm packing my kid a sandwich.
I
Do
don't
see any
believe, we
change
did
in
not
that?
see a decrease in the participation.
Okay.
I've been here a year, and so going back 3 years on the participation, I cannot justify or answer that question specifically. I know last year we have had increases in participation. We hope to continue to produce and serve quality meals, so we hope that, we will see the increase of participation. And then the increase of our free and reduced meal population, we hope that we stay steady at that 78% and promote that.
Okay, thank you.
Other board members? Ms. Kraft?
Really quick, I think it's important that this does not affect the students who are on free and reduced lunch.
It does not.
If they are on
That's a
free and
great
reduced
question.
lunch, this does not increase their cost at all. Their lunches are still free to reduce. This is only for the students who don't qualify and are paying out of pocket for lunch or
That is
breakfast.
correct.
I think that's important that everybody hears that. I'm glad you brought that up, that that's not going to change for those students on free and reduced.
Sure.
Anybody else? 2 questions for me. Could you go back to the slide with the requirement language? Yeah, you may have said this and I just missed it.
This is a very
Requirement to-
confusing slide.
Yes. Requirement to me says you have to do this.
You have to do it is a requirement
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So what am I missing?
on,
On the first, the weighted average, or I'm sorry, weighted average requirement, right there. What does requirement mean?
okay. So what they're saying is that we're required to raise our prices a certain amount. What they're saying is they would like for us to get to that amount, 341 at that time. This was 23, 24. If we don't want to support that, then we have to at least increase it by like 10 cents. That's the minimum. But we asked for 25 cents that year. Same thing this year. There's a requirement because of being we were supplemented by the general funds. And so the federal government says you're not meeting and you're not meeting your budget with the reimbursement funds that we are getting.
Okay, this is
So-
helpful. So if this is supplemented by the general fund, then is it required that we increase the cost?
Yes.
That's helpful. Okay. Go to the slide with the breakfast. This is my second question. Just a comment, moving forward, that seems like the easiest area to continue to increase the price if price increases are necessary. We already offer a free breakfast. That is for an additional breakfast. If we need to increase prices in the future, and I won't be surprised if we will, that's the first place I would suggest looking, as you already
At the
doubled it here.
breakfast.
Yes, the
And-
breakfast.
And the thing there is there's a handful. There's not a lot of our students that are getting that second breakfast, so that would be a minimal
So we're not
amount.
making much there.
No. Do you really want to answer that?
All right, other board members, any additional questions, comments?
Mine's just more of a comment, actually.
Yes, Ms. Hall.
I'm drawing a blank. What is the name of the program that parents can go in and put money on their student's account?
It's link.com, yes. Link,
Yes,
L-I-N-Q.
yes. Okay.
.com.
So I found this very helpful. I just learned this last school year. So if you're a parent in the district and you have more than one child in the district and you're going in and putting money on their account, if they're at 2 different schools and whatnot, and then you're paying that transaction fee 2 times because you have 2 kids, you can link their accounts. I just found that out last year. and mine have been in the district since 2016, 17, something like that. But yes, you can link your students' accounts so you're not having to double up on adding the money in there and paying that transaction fee twice. Yes.
And I'll be happy to try and convey that and communicate that better to parents too. Thank you for that comment, because that's the things we need to know. I mean, we sit back there and we're like, oh, da, 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 da. You know, so, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hall. Ms. George, am I correct, this is your first time in front of this body?
It is.
Nice job tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the child nutrition meal prices for the 2025-2026 school year as recommended.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Is there a second?
I second.
There it is, Mr. Harding. Yeah. Any further discussion for the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. That vote passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. George. Next, we will hear an update on the current status of federal funds for the 2025-26 school year. Mr. Mahan.
Yes, sir. I gave you a brief update in the superintendent's report. Ms. Caroline Neal will come forward and bring you a more thorough update specific around areas that these funds that are frozen provide for our district. Ms. Neal, thank you.
Hello, good evening. So we want to talk a little bit more and get into some more detail about what we actually use some of these funds for. So if we look at the funds that are in question right now in terms of funding, the Title I Part C migrant, It lists them, I've listed some things here that over the last 3 years that we have paid for using these particular funds. And so we have paid salary for our migrant and Indian education coordinator. We have paid for professional development, consultants, coaching, supplies. We've paid for student tutoring, and then parent engagement and classroom materials and supplies. That's just an example. That's not exactly limited to everything that we have done with those funds, but that gives you some idea. With Title II, we've also paid a salary for our Director of Recruitment and Retention. We pay bonuses to our teachers who are nationally board certified, stipends for off-contract collaboration meetings for teachers, like after-school meetings. We paid for a wellness institute and also professional development. Title II is predominantly a professional development type of fund. Title III, we've paid again a salary for the coordinator of multilingual community support, another salary for an EL coordinator. We have purchased curriculum resources to support our English language learners, classroom materials, and technology. So you can see we've purchased a lot of really good, rich things for our students. Title IV, Part A, concurrent credit and our WOTC funds at UAFS, and that also includes the textbooks and online access for those students. We've paid for STEM professional development and some counseling resources. Title IV focuses more on that component where enrichment kind of things. So that gives you an idea of just some different resources that we have purchased and used over the last 4 years. And again, just the whole nature of federal funds means that, it has the clause of supplement, not supplant, meaning that this is in addition to what's required that we do educationally. So we don't purchase the textbooks that are required. These are all things above and beyond for our students. Okay, this is a chart that shows you over the last 3 years the amount of funding that we have received for all of these different funds. Now, we're kind of talking the bad news in terms of this is potential funds that we could not receive. I think some good news is that we will be receiving Title I funds, and we have heard that that will be level funding. So hopefully it will not be any less than what we've received in the past, and we do a lot of great things with Title I funds also. But these are the funds that are in danger of us not receiving this year. Normally the state finds out by July 1st, and the state is still telling us. I was at the ADE Summit last week, and the State Department people were there, and they're still telling us that this is under review. So we just don't have an answer yet in terms of will we be receiving this money, or if we do, will it be comparable to these numbers that we're seeing here? Another thing is that you don't see here and maybe may not even be aware of, this will impact some of our private schools, because with federal funds, those private schools that participate and are eligible, these numbers for 24-25 included over $100,000 that are used to serve eligible students in private schools. Okay, so conclusion. If we do potentially lose over $1.5 million in federal funds, it will have a significant impact on what we're able to purchase. And as Mr. Mahan said earlier, we have a plan in place to, of course, go ahead and try our best to move some things around and still provide those. But it means in the long term, we will have to take a look at our programs and what we're doing with these funds. And that will impact staff, academic opportunities to address our diverse student needs, like our English language learner students, professional development, teacher recruitment and retention, materials and supplies, and technology. And we're not limited to those things, but those are just the things that we have utilized as the resources for in the past. Okay, so now what? We're going to continue to fund these resources using the appropriate federal fund, meaning that we're going to go ahead and move forward. If we have that budgeted currently in Title II, we'll go ahead and charge it to Title II. If we find out that we're not receiving those funds, then we will have to move that to a different fund and pay for it out of a different fund. And there is a question on the supplement, not supplant, because let's say that we move one of those salaries to operating. Well, the way federal funds work, you can't move it back to a federal fund then, because that is considered supplanting. So the state, they are considering making, to say that, okay, we're going to allow you to do this at this point and possibly then move it back to federal funds later, should that be an issue. So a lot of things up in the air right now. I wish I had better news to report, but I think it's just important that we all know where we are and what potentially could happen to impact these funds and our students. Do you have any questions?
Questions from the board? It's an important topic.
Well, we'll continue to give you updates and keep you informed as we receive information. We're, every day we're just waiting and hoping that we will hear something so that we can at least know where we are and what we need to do.
So it sounds like we might get good news on Title I funding, right?
Yes, Title I, now, we haven't.
Yes.
We haven't really received that for sure, but yes, it takes an act of Congress to change that, literally, and so we have been told that those funds are pretty secure. And our special education, the IDEA funds.
Good.
So we are hoping, we have also seen some news that potentially Title IV is there, but the state hasn't received the funds, so we can't be sure until we get an allocation or they tell us for sure. So we're just really waiting to hear. One thing that they did encourage us to go ahead and do is that if we had carryover, to go ahead and spend the carryover so we're on it. We're working to get that done, because if those funds are cut off, we want to make sure that what we carried over, we're able to utilize.
All of those funds are very important, but Title IV money's special to me, and so I really hope that continues. My advice is simply to stay flexible and nimble with how we budget this year, because it's possible you could find out something last minute, right? And we don't want to have to make drastic changes because we're not budgetarily ready.
And we are looking at, we're kind of holding off on some of the spending. I've had conversations, like I said, even with the private schools, in terms of we can't pay for anything, we can't move forward until we know that we're going to get these funds. And so we're doing that also in district. We're waiting, we're hoping that we hear something pretty quickly. Normally, we receive our initial allocation in August. So we hope it's before that.
Yes, Ms. Kraft.
Just a comment. We have been affected by this at UAFS as well, and I just want to say that there's 4 people whose jobs we're talking about here, and that's really hard. We had at least 10 to 12 people at UAFS who have been waiting to find out if they're still going to have a job or not, and that's really hard. So the folks that we're talking about these dollars, but these are people. And so those folks that are waiting to find out if they're going to have a salary or not, I'm really, really sorry that you're in this awful limbo. It's awful. Like I said, we've had some folks at UAFS in this boat for a while now, and it's tough. So my thoughts are with those folks. I know this is not an easy topic.
Yeah, we do know that the concurrent credit, we haven't been able to pay for that before out of Title I, but I believe we're going to be able to pay for that out of Title I, worst case scenario, so that would be an option to look at. So we do have some different options on that. But now, like you said, Title I, we have a lot of salaries in there. are, a great resource are people. And so that's a big part of the budget.
Is there any kind of time frame that they've given you, like how long they're going to let this,
Not
you'll know
really.
something by at least?
Well, it was supposed to be July 1.
Right, you said July 1, but we don't know how long they'll let this go on for. Okay.
They're still just telling us it's under review. The State Department has been having webinars and Zooms with the district people on a regular basis to keep us updated, but really all they can tell us on the update is that it's still under review. So, and I know you're seeing it on the news and hearing it, and so we just don't know. I wish I did. My federal programs friends across the state, we all are texting and, in constant communication. Have you heard anything? And so far we haven't, but we will keep you updated as soon as we do.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Neal.
Thank you.
This is presentation item only and no actions required from the board, so we will move right along to item number 14. We'll now hear a presentation regarding a special education and alternative learning incentive proposal. Mr. Mahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've been speaking as a district for quite some time about how we can incentivize special education, alternative learning environment teachers, and paraprofessionals. They serve with some unique challenges. They do a lot of paperwork that's dictated by the state and the federal government, and they meet a lot of deadlines. So this is a unique, innovative idea around an innovative way to reward some of our staff. And so Dr. Manley and Ms. Tate has a presentation. Ms. Alexander, I have a presentation for you about special education and ALE.
Good evening, Mr. Mahan, members of the school board and cabinet. We are here this evening to present a proposal for a special education and alternative learning environment incentive. This proposal is a targeted approach to address critical staffing challenges in these high-need areas. So why this matters, if you'll look at the first bullet, the national teacher shortage is well documented, with approximately 72% of school districts reporting difficulty in filling positions. Fort Smith Public Schools is no exception, particularly in the areas of special education and the alternative learning environment. The second bullet, recent guidance from the Arkansas Department of Education and elementary and secondary education, or DESE, further limits our options. We are no longer permitted to fill vacancies with long-term subs. And our special education teachers, being a long-term sub, there are 3 ways that they can be staffed now. The first one is teachers already certified in special education. The second way is teachers actively enrolled in a special education master's program, or the third way is current certified teachers with a standard license in another area who are willing to transition into special education by passing the required praxis assessments. And then in our ALE settings, our new hires are often entering the teaching profession for the first time, which naturally comes with a very steep learning curve. So if you'll look at our third bullet there, student access to highly qualified teachers, we are grateful, very grateful for the dedicated professionals who have stepped into these roles and committed to serving some of our most vulnerable students. However, we must acknowledge the need to attract and retain highly effective certified educators in these areas. Our students deserve consistent access to teachers who are fully prepared and supported in meeting their complex learning and behavioral needs. This proposal outlines strategic incentives designed to recruit, support, and retain the professionals who will make a lasting impact in special education and alternative learning environment classrooms. So on this next slide, you're going to see our current retention rate. This one is for the Fort Smith Public Schools certified teacher retention percentage. This is an average of the last 3 years of our retention data, and our certified teachers altogether are at 91.33% retention rate. Just for a baseline, so you know, we try to hit at least 90%, and we consider ourselves good when we do. Now, if you'll look at the right-hand side, these are the Fort Smith Public School paraprofessional retention percentages, and it is at 79.01. Now, on this next slide, we wanted to present the Fort Smith Public Schools SPED certified teachers and their retention percentage. So our SPED teachers, which are our certified teachers, are at 85.88%. And if you remember, the other one was at 91% for everybody. And then on the right-hand side, our Fort Smith Public Schools SPED paraprofessional retention percentage is at 74.84%. And so what I would like to show you at the bottom is we currently still need 6 openings for certified special ed teachers, and we currently need 7 paraprofessionals for the 25-26 school year. I also would like to let you know, because we are moving into Orr Learning Academy, we only have the Bell Point average, and we don't have all of the elementary retention to pull into that, but Bell Point over the last 3 years had a retention rate of 57.64%.
Here's the proposed incentive structure. This structure acknowledges the growing demand for special education teachers, as well as those who support teachers in our alternative learning environments, or ALE, and the paraprofessionals who support them. In this structure, we are proposing that teachers who serve in the self-contained classrooms and the ALE classrooms receive that $5,000 per year. Teachers in the self-contained classroom serve students with our more intensive needs, including those with significant cognitive, behavioral, and physical challenges. Teachers in our ALE settings serve students who require more intensive supports due to significant behavioral challenges. You'll also see for our special education teachers who support students in the general education classroom, that will be inclusion. And in those resource settings, we're proposing $3,000 per year for them. And for the paraprofessionals in our self-contained classrooms who support those teachers in those spaces that I just outlined for you, paraprofessionals who support students one-to-one that could be due to behavioral challenges or medical needs, and for our paraprofessionals who provide personal care support, and those paras who support an ALE, an additional $3,000 per year for them as well. I hope you all know that these openings are very hard to fill positions, and teachers typically leave because they're burnt out. According to the research, you'll find that most special education teachers are burnt out after year 5. Providing an incentive shows our staff that we recognize their expertise and contributions to the district and to the students that they serve. To increase retention and accountability, the proposed amounts will be paid out in 2 installments in the fall and in the spring semester to encourage staff to stay through each term rather than leave mid-year. Those individuals who are excluded from this incentive structure are related services providers, such as speech therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, adaptive PE teachers, behavior specialists, ASL interpreters, vision specialists, coordinators, and administrators. Eligibility requirements: in order to receive each semester the incentive payment, our employees must have acceptable attendance, no grossly excessive absenteeism, FMLA excused absences are excluded, be in compliance with the individual education plan timelines for SPED teachers and the student action plan timeline for ALE teachers. All reevaluations and annual IEPs must meet established deadlines, and staff have no disciplinary actions, no letters of reprimand on file during the semester. They must also not be on intensive support plans and must demonstrate professional standards and independence. Any questions for the 2 of us?
Just want to make sure we have the money available to pay this. That's the main question, right?
Well, that would be just one question.
I will say this was a collaborative proposal with our special ed, alternative learning, also finance and HR. It's been an ongoing discussion about how to kind of incentivize some of our expertise, and so just looking at an innovative way to do that.
Apologies for the internet disruption up here at the beginning. Can you reiterate, there will be no more long-term subs in special education?
Well, it's not just special education. We no longer can put a long-term sub in an unfilled position, which we were able to do up till this past year.
Mr. Hardy.
On the incentive structure slide, you have the 3 different roles. Do you have an estimate or an average of number of positions for each of those roles?
We can get that information for you.
And Dr. Davis is here.
I can come up. I told them I would be able to provide some information as we saw fit. So in each of those categories, you're looking roughly 47 in our self-contained and ALE teachers. The total incentive for teachers and paraprofessionals is just over 100. And so basically the total cost before benefits would be about $675,000 if all teachers and paraprofessionals were eligible for both semesters. And so we've been able to look and realize some cost savings, and Mr. Warren can speak much more intelligently about the cost savings surrounding our insurance that is an expense that we were anticipating to have to pay, and so that savings is where we would be paying for this, not from, we've kind of talked previously about, okay, we're having to raise prices for this and we're having to cut funds for this. This is a completely different funding source and structure, and so that's why we felt the need to present it to the board, and with your approval, we'll move forward, and we'll also be willing to listen to any suggestions as well.
Go ahead.
So the savings that we have from insurance, can we anticipate that being, I don't want this to be a one-time incentive. If it's something we can continue, do we think we'll have money in the future for that, or do you have your magic 8 ball that's going to tell us that?
First of all, I apologize for stepping up earlier and not introducing myself, especially to the new school board members. My name is Charles Warren. I'm your CFO here at the Fort Smith Public Schools. And yes, I get called from the table every now and then when there's a money question. If you recall, those that were at our meeting when we looked at salary schedule increases, one of the costs that we had to anticipate and remove from potential salary schedule increases was the increase in cost to the employer for employee health care. That was our impression that would start July 1. Since that time, we have learned that that increase is not effective until January 1. It is based upon a calendar year health plan. So that means that literally half of that cost that we were anticipating that we took out of the pool of funds are now available for this one school year. Coincidentally, that is the amount that would be allocated and fulfill the needs of this program. Looking at what you would do going forward, that is a cost that is anticipated to have real savings down the road. I would be presenting for future, can we continue this pilot? We would be anticipating that the pilot program, if successful, would continue on. It would be one of those items that we'd pull off the top when we looked at new revenue available in April or May. So we feel confident that we can for sure get through this school year, and we believe that there will be at least an opportunity to have discussions to continue on this program as long as the need arises. Does that help understand? Thank you.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yep, just wanted to make mention that I support this. I also sincerely appreciate the eligibility requirements, which seem to be relatively reasonable, but it holds our department accountable as well in that regard. So thank you for those.
I actually have a question. I'm supporter too. How is everybody? Are most people, like the current special education teachers and then the paraprofessionals, meeting these requirements currently? Like how many are already meeting these requirements?
Great question, and that was how we designed the incentive, is that we have great staff, we have great teachers and great support staff that are already meeting these standards. When I gave you the total amount that we have budgeted, we anticipate that every staff member is going to be receiving these incentives. However, we did want to honor our mission, vision, and values and the high expectations and accountability with a certain amount of minimum requirements. And so we do believe that all staff are able to meet these requirements, which is why we put into place some of the exceptions for family medical leave or other policy protected leave that would be excluded.
Good question and good answer.
And one thing I would like to point out is that if this proposal is approved, we will then go back, we'll work on a communication plan, we'll work on, it's not an immediate payment, and so that payment would be at the end of the fall semester, considering that the employees met those eligibility requirements, and then there would be, the second half of that would be at the end of the spring semester. And so we would go back, work on that communication plan, work on making sure that our supervisors, our principals, our teachers and staff completely understand the criteria and what each one of those criteria means, so that everyone has an accurate understanding before the school year gets started.
Okay, I have several questions. I first want to say I think this is great for our SPED certified teachers and our paras. Their job is extremely hard every day in that classroom. And thank you to all of the teachers, the SPED teachers and paraprofessionals that do that job day in and day out. Because I know it is not easy. I've been in those classrooms before. My first question is, when August comes and these 13 positions are not filled, what are we going to do?
It's a great question, and I will make sure.
Worst case scenario, if they're not completely filled.
Some of the positions that you see up there today are positions that came available as of today, and so we're constantly filling positions. I would anticipate that once we get to the beginning of the school year, we start evaluating our enrollment. These are positions that we needed based on special education, alternative learning environment staffing needs at the end of last year. So when students arrive to school come in August, we'll reevaluate that staffing. Unfortunately, sometimes that does mean if we don't have a position filled, that we have to look at reallocating staff from one campus or another to meet that need.
If we reallocate staff, I'm assuming then that means that they're not needed at that particular campus because of the student population, correct?
I want to be really careful to not say they're not needed, but sometimes we look at this. We look at the student to teacher ratios.
That's what I'm referring to. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Okay. My next question, a play off of that one. Is there a plan in place if someone does leave mid-school year? Have you guys thought about that yet?
So
Since we can't use long-term subs.
Yes, we have that happen from time to time, and traditionally that is our approach because it, in my mind, it makes a lot more sense to put someone in a spot temporarily so that we can find the most highly qualified individual. However, moving forward, if we do have to provide a more long-term solution mid-year, we do have opportunities. This incentive proposal will help to facilitate some of that, where we do allow for internal transfers to happen outside of the deadline for these critical shortage areas. And so this incentive proposal is a way to incentivize, let's say, a general education teacher or a substitute teacher who is currently licensed in K-6 or 712 general education or one of the content areas. This is an incentive to be able to say, hey, if you go back and you take your assessment for the praxis assessment to be licensed in special education. So there are a lot of things that we're working on, not only with our substitute staff, but also looking at our paraprofessional staff, identifying those paraprofessionals that have a bachelor's degree and pointing them to pathways for licensure in special education.
Okay. And then that retention rate for SPED certified and paras, not the best, but when we are losing those teachers, whether it be to a different career path altogether or they're going to another district, we conduct exit interviews with staff. I know there's only so much that you can share with that, but in those exit interviews, have we gained any knowledge that can help us in increasing this retention rate?
So
Is there a common thing that you're hearing?
So we conduct exit surveys for all staff, and then staff who exit also get an email that asks to come in for exit interviews, and so that's a second layer, an in-person interview. And so I will make sure that and turn that over to Dr. Manley, who does some of our exit. She does all of our exit interviews, and she can talk about some of the themes We try to keep a lot of that confidential so that we don't break the trust of the folks that are coming in to give us those details, but thematic instances that she can share with you, she'll be happy to.
We also do engagement surveys for the last couple of years, and within that, we also have the special education people in those departments within each school building also have a chance to talk about SPED as well. So we have a separate number there. But some of the themes that have been coming up, one is more pay. One is more pay, one is work-life balance, and one is some of them are not happy with their placements. So there is a question in there about, are you happy with what grade or what level you're teaching? And what we have found is, like Ms. Alexander said, 5 years is about the average. We have several people who have SPED certification, but also have other general content education. And once they become a SPED teacher, what we hear is it's so hard to be hired as a general content teacher because there's such a shortage. So and Ms. Alexander is of the same mind that we don't want to keep those people. We would rather keep those great people here doing something as opposed to making them stay in SPED. So those are some of the top reasons that we are hearing. One of the things that we are doing this fall with the engagement surveys and the exit surveys is I am doing small group sessions, and one of my first sessions is going to be with SPED teachers and try to get a little bit. So here's the exit data, here's the engagement survey data. Give me a narrative, give me a real narrative of what this means so that then we can come back with suggestions to really make a change.
Okay. And this is my last one. Okay. I noticed that on a lot of the new hires, they have 0 to just a few years of experience. And this is a very tough job to take on. And you have to do it all for the right reasons, of course. But do we have a plan in place for extra training for these brand new or very few to little years of experience SPED teachers beyond just the state requirement for the start of the school year?
Well, absolutely. We do that, and we have a pretty robust new teacher orientation, but they also have Ms. Alexander in the SPED department, they do extra trainings as well. We also have several schools that pair all of those teachers, SPED teachers, together to get extra help and assign them sort of a quasi-mentor, even though they might have not needed one because they're not a novice. But we also have, I don't know how many paraprofessionals from this district we have now hired to go straight into those SPED classrooms. So having a grow your own with these paraprofessionals who know what it looks like in a classroom, because they're mostly in those self-contained and they are still wanting to be a teacher and be paid what they're worth because they're doing great work. So we have several of those that are now new teachers that you're seeing on there that have experience in the classroom as a paraprofessional. When they become a certified teacher, we take them back down to 0, but doesn't mean that they haven't been in those classrooms for the last several years, knowing and doing well by the students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question was, so with the exit interviews that you've done, which grades are the hardest to keep a paraprofessional and a special education teacher? Which ones are you seeing the most turnover?
Well, it's not necessarily a grade level. It's mostly in our self-contained classrooms where we see the majority of the care, physical care and behavioral care, and they have a limited ability.
Has there been like a review and to add more, like what preventatives, kind of like how much more support or resources can we add to those contained classes?
Well, I will also tell you that we have now started training all of our SPED paraprofessionals in CPI. That happened the end of May, and there's another training coming up this preschool. We also have Ms. Pennington, who's not here tonight. She is actually in HR. She takes care of the classified people. She's also helping with us doing more training for our classified staff so that our retention rate does go up. And we're already getting some really great feedback on our classified staff who are able to attend those trainings.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lott.
How often is the CPI training done? Do they do that every year? Because I know it's if you don't use it, you lose it type thing.
Yes.
So how often are they being,
Well, it is every 2 years. Every 2 years, there is a recertification. So I know that we are always doing new teachers every year. So we have CPI every year. Whether or not it's in all of the buildings and departments because it's a certification for everybody year, or if it's just the new teachers, we are doing the new teachers CPI on July 30th. And then we also have another CPI for the paraprofessionals on August 11th.
Okay. Good discussion, board. I'll entertain a motion to approve the special education and alternative learning environment incentive as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Is there a second?
second?
Thank you, Ms. Lott. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries, 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you to our presenters as well. Next, we'll consider approval of an allocation for each of our specialty sports. Mr. Mahan.
Yes, this is another kind of innovative idea that I can take absolutely no credit for. Was out and about, visible, attending a baseball game or softball game last spring, and a parent approached me with this idea around volunteers and specialties because we have so many great volunteers that assist us and never really ask for compensation, but we would like to compliment them as they help our students. I also like to be very clear, we have excellent physical education teachers that are currently providing oversight for these specialty coaches. So this is a resource to them to assist in things like pole vaulting. They may not have that expertise, but if we have funding set aside to bring in someone to do a clinic with several students, they can learn that at the early age of middle school or high school. Cheer, dance, lots of examples. And Coach Beaumont and Ms. Steele, as well as some others, collaborated several times and came up with a great pilot program. I'd love for them to present.
Yes, I am Coach Beaumont, for those that do not know me. And to my left is the right and the left hand to the Athletics and Activities Department. In fact, those new on the board will quickly learn I don't do much, and Jennifer really does all of the work. So this presentation that she put together is a great idea of which I think that we can support our students with some professional help. Like Mr. Mahan said, our coaches do a great job, I think, in everything that they do, and it is all with great purpose, and they are here to serve, but they may not all have the expertise in everything, and I think there are some professionals that we can reach out to provide support for those services. And so the ask is going to be, if we go to the financial considerations next, we are asking for an allocation in this proposal for $3,000 per specialty sport, and we're looking for that to be each of the sports listed on the next slide. You may ask, what will this cover? We are looking for things such as clinics, individual instruction, small group instruction, large group instruction. I think there are many avenues of which we can provide additional support to our programs. The oversight of all of this will still go through our office, and those terms of employment will be much like anything that is contractual labor. Included on the specialty sports, I have listed 11 opportunities that I think we can benefit with this program from, and in the middle school, 2 additional sports and programs there. So about $33,000 for the high school, another $6,000 for the middle school. It's a large amount, but I do think there is some purpose and some benefit that our kids can receive. The word expectations of professionals, a lot of our programs, for instance, would be our golf programs. While we may have an outstanding golf coach, their expertise may just be from the love of the game, or they play quite a bit. And so they're trying to teach our kids how to play that. Well, we have reached out to our golf pro here in the Hardscrabble Country Club, and he is willing to take on some lessons and to do some things with both sides of town. So kids from both sides of town can benefit from some additional support. So I think these are going to be some great things that we can do with these funds. They will still meet all requirements that Dragonfly, background check, fingerprinting, those things that we already expect from anybody that volunteers. So those things will not change. We will do an outstanding job on making sure that the unintended consequences of whether one side of town may be perceived as receiving more of a teaching than the other side of town. I'm usually pretty good about making sure everybody is equitable, and that will not happen. And then the biggest thing, and I think one of the things that has a little bit of concern for me, but I'll do a good job of making sure that our current volunteers don't feel slighted with us bringing in a professional. Our current volunteers do a great job. They give all of their time, and it is for free, because the rules used to be the only way you could be a volunteer for programs is to do that for free. This will allow a contractual opportunity to bring in someone that we deem is professional or has the certifications that make them a professional, whether that is a certification through the Golf Association of America or Track Runners USA. We have different opportunities to have professionals in those certifications. So those are the people that we're going to be looking for to see if they can help. I think it presents an opportunity to significantly enhance the athletic department across a broad range of sports through structured and professionally led instructions. So that is our ask tonight, that we want your support in. Yes?
Just wanted to point out, Mr. Carter was involved, as well as Mr. Pruitt, both high school principals in this committee that have studied this, and if any questions pertinent to a high school principal, he's here and can respond to those questions as well.
All right. Thank you, Coach Beaumont. Questions, comments from the board?
Both of my daughters are engaged in some of these specialty sports listed here and often utilize a volunteer. Southside's bowling team, men's team, has enjoyed some successes in the past.
100%.
Even some state championships.
Yes, sir.
And so the volunteer coach, when it came time to get a ring, had to pay for his own. So moving forward, is there a conversation we can entertain with a booster club or even with our district that if he's there for every practice and we win a state title, we can probably pony up the cash to buy him a state championship ring?
I believe if that ask ever comes to my desk, I can find a way to make sure that happens.
Sincerely appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
But that being said, I think this is a phenomenal idea, and I think that it's one of those things that our students will benefit from it.
Yes, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Other comments, questions from the board?
I've got a question. Do you have a follow-up plan or to see any feedback from parents or coaches after the end of the school year?
Yeah, so this is a pilot program as well, and so I am open to anything that can make our kids more successful. So if I get feedback from the coaches that say, hey, this worked, this didn't, or I would like to use more funds instead of a one-time clinic, maybe having a person come in once a week or twice a week. There is some flexibility with these funds, but again, I'm not trying to make this a cookie cutter that one thing is going to fit everybody. One sport may have a different need than another sport, and I'm open to that. After we do this for a year, if you all decide to support it again, the very first thing I would do is go to parents, student athletes, coaches. All right, what worked, what didn't work, what could we see more of, what would we like to improve, what are things that we did not see that were an issue before that now we need to be aware of this time around. Yes, sir.
I would add to that, our real focus too is around unintended consequences. We don't want to put a amount out there that's insulting to some of our folks, but we want to acknowledge their work. So we try to find a happy balance. So I think this year, Mr. Harding, I think that's a valid point. We can kind of judge that to what we can sustain as a district to ensure that our students are competing at very high levels at all of our sports. But yeah, I think that's really good feedback.
Well, I have a question. So this is going to be, it's not like seasons, right, where you're teaching different kids. Like, say you have some kids that don't really necessarily know a lot about the sport. Are we recruiting those students, or is it for students that are already participating in athletics, and it's just kind of giving them, more practice time? Because, one of the things is if you want it to be equal, there'd be some students that might not necessarily be part of it, but would like to be. So is it like sessions? How would you move forward with that?
Yeah, I think there's opportunity for any and all of that. You all know now that there are really no more seasons for sports. Baseball season goes 12 months out of the year. If you are a cheerleader or a dancer, they practice every day all year long. And so I think that what I would like to see and what benefits them, I think the most will be opportunities, whether that is pre-season, opportunity for instruction, during the season, opportunity for instruction, post-season opportunity for instruction, and then during the summer. So I think that this amount, I think we can find ways to make all of that work to benefit everybody all year long. But like again, if we go through a year after this and say, that didn't work the way we wanted to, I am open to revamping and redoing to where it does work.
Because I like the idea, but I definitely want to see everybody take opportunity for it, right?
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Are there other schools that are doing this that have been successful that we can kind of look at or follow?
Yeah, there are other schools, especially the ones that we spoke to that are just in our conference alone. Tennis is one of those things that, while you all may be great at tennis, and I am not, but I like to play, but I'm just not very good. And we have coaches that are good at tennis, but not great at tennis, or they may be good at one area and not great at others. And so we are seeing professionals on the other side of the tunnel that are doing the very same thing that we're asking now. Track is another one. Uniquely to the University of Arkansas, they seem to have won several national championships in track over the past several years. And then those moms and dads graduate from those programs, and then they stay in that area, and then they come back to volunteer. And how great it would be to have volunteers to come in that won 3 gold medals. I'm sure that we have, maybe here on the board, maybe someone that was that great, but they are doing that very same thing, so that's our ask.
I will use this opportunity to make mention that our very own Dalton Person still holds the bench press record for Southside football.
We were going to redo that board, Mr. Whitaker, and then I was made aware of that as well, so.
With that, for me, this is all about ensuring all of our sports teams are competitive. And in my mind, the Northwest Arkansas schools have certain opportunities available to them, in part with a university in their backyard, that are becoming harder and harder for some of our specialty sports to compete with. And so I like this innovative idea, and I hope it's successful, so I'm supportive of it. Is there a motion to approve the specialty support of $3,000 per single sport as indicated in the proposal?
So moved.
All right, thanks, Susan. Is there a second?
I have a question. I just
Well,
noticed.
we got to
Oh, sorry.
get
Go
a
ahead.
second before we can discuss.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lott. Ms. Hall.
Okay. I noticed something you just said there. So this is maybe for specification, but it just says per sport. Do we need to say per sport, per school?
I think that is the intention on the dollar amount. I just doubled it for each side of town and then quadrupled it for each of the middle school.
Okay.
That was the total
intent.
amount.
I'm comfortable with what we've got. Any other questions, discussion? All right, let's vote. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. That passes by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you all.
Thank you. For next presentation, we will hear information regarding the English Language Proficiency Assessment. Mr. Mahan.
Yes, Ms. Crystal Smith has a presentation, exciting data to share, and something we'd like to keep in front of you on a regular basis is academic data, and this is one area of focus.
Good evening, Mr. Person, school board members, Mr. Mahan, district leaders, and guests. I'm going to talk to you about our ELPA 21 assessment. It's also known as our English Language Proficiency Assessment. The purpose of the ELPA 21 assessment is to assess and track the English learners, or our EL students, progress in their English language skills. Our students are tested on 4 key language domains: listening, reading, speaking, and writing, and they have 3 proficiency levels in which that they are categorized in, and that's emerging, progressing, and proficient. These are some numbers from our last year student counts for our Fort Smith Public Schools, and then you notice our ELs were about 5,044. This chart depicts some data from the spring 2024 ELPA 21 assessment to the spring 2025 ELPA assessment. Now you will notice that we did not test the total 5,044 students, and that's because 2,139 of those students have already exited the English Learner program. in order to exit the English, or to exit our program, they have to be proficient on the ELPA 21 assessment plus two other data points that exhibit proficiency. That can be on their ATLAS scores, that can be in AP exams, any classroom summative assessment exams can be used for those data points. What I want you to note is how many, is that our recently arrived students are the students who have arrived within the last 3 years, and a student who is a recently arrived EL can stay in a silent period for up to 6 months. So that's why it's very important to note how many of these students are our ELs, or recently arrived ELs. Why is this all important? For students who speak English as a second language to be successful, we must increase their access to spoken and written English. Successful language growth will result in proficiency in the ELPA 21 assessment that they take each spring, and the ELP growth counts double on our state school report cards. So that means that these EL students count in their ELA score as just a regular student, but it also counts their English language proficiency scores count as well. How do we accelerate English language proficiency in the Fort Smith Public Schools? Well, we provide language access and core content subject areas through Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, or SIOP. We have teachers who have English Speakers of Other Languages certifications, and we teach systematic English language development. We provide specific vocabulary and language access through systematic English language development via an EL Achieve curriculum, and we have secondary constructing meaning via the EL Achieve curriculum. And that secondary constructing meaning supports content coursework. We also have paraprofessionals who provide an additional layer of support for our recently arrived students and our students who are scoring at the emergent level. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. Do any of you have any questions regarding this presentation?
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Questions, comments from the board related to the presentation item?
Will this program be affected with the cuts or everything that they're proposing?
Some of the discretionary funds that we use to support students' English language could be impacted.
So what are the plans moving forward with that? Do we have
Well,
any-
it wouldn't necessarily be staff members, but it would be programs like we have an Imagine Learning program, where it's a self-paced program where students, teachers can program what the students work on this computerized program. They can also work on it at home, but it's tailored to those student needs. So we would have to rely on other resources that we would have in our schools to support their language learning.
What other resources do you have at the schools?
We have the EL Achieve. Our paraprofessionals have various manipulatives and training. They've also had, EL Achieve is a program where we teach language development to our students, and we have that K-12. But with that, and that has to be taught by a certified staff member. So with that, we've also given our paraprofessionals who support our English learners training on EL Achieve that can support what the certified teacher is doing with the students, but also how they can support the students in small groups.
Okay. Will any of that bell to bell, be it like the devices, do you guys use any of those, like Google Translate or anything like that on the Chromebooks, or is something like not allowed? I don't know.
Not for these. That wouldn't affect these programs that we have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the board? All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith. This is presentation item only. No action is required. So we will move on to item number 17, which is presentation on the bell-to-bell no-cell update, and we will dovetail from that presentation back into the consent agenda item about the student-related policy changes, and we'll need to vote on 8.4 and 8.5 at the same time. Sorry.
Marshall, sir.
I took the opportunity to do a revision so the board can review and approve a policy tonight. Dr. Farrell pointed out how bad my idea was about the backpack, because you've got to have the wearable on your body for it to. Thank you all for not calling me out in the moment. But Dr. Farrell called me out in the back. So I think the way to get at this is through the issuance of the district. The other thing that we caucused and figured out in the back, Dr. Farrell really is the one that figured it out, is it's not necessarily a cost to the district, because the district has the ability to issue a student's device back to the student. And so what I have done is I have taken that language out of the statute that had not been included by ASBA, and I have woven it into this paragraph, and all of the yellow marks are my new work product that comes directly from the statute, and I think it solves the issue that was presented.
Works for me. Questions?
Okay.
I do have a question on a different part of the policy that's in the presentation. But regarding this, I think that allows for principal discretion, which I think is really important, but gives us a little bit more clarity. So this is good.
Do you have a different question on this very policy or somewhere else?
This very policy.
Okay, hang on.
I think it's addressed in the presentation. Is that?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Okay, I've got the policy up.
So my question on the policy is the disciplinary progression for elementary or primary schools.
Do we want to view the presentation first, since your question's regarding the presentation that we haven't?
Correct. Yeah, I
Okay.
would suggest that it is on the presentation. It'd be easy for everyone to see if it's up there.
Is that
Okay,
Dr.
so
Jones?
So I do think we want to resolve that before we vote on the policy. So I'll let the administrators come up, make their presentation, and I'll come back.
Okay, and Dr. Jones and Dr. Starr will do a presentation on bell-to-bell no-cell update. I will just add, if there is an instructional reason for device to be brought out, the teacher has, within the law, has the right to ask students to use that device for instructional purposes. So I think you had a great question, but just want to point that out. It can still be used for instructional purposes.
All right, everybody, here to present on Bell-to-Bell No Cell Act, which just states that no personal cell phones, tablets, smartwatches, or Bluetooth devices can be used from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The Fort Smith Public School District has established a policy, including the exemptions that we alluded to earlier, that must be approved by DESE. Dr. Farrell has sent our policy over to the to DESE, which just matches our Arkansas School Board Association policy. That's how we just mirror what they do. And the district's policy related to the bill must be posted on our school's website prior to the first day of school, and we will ensure, once we have approval from DESE, that we do that. Last school year, we piloted a no cell phone environment at two of our middle schools, at Kimmons and Ramsey Middle Schools. And if you look at that chart that's on the right, what that is showing is the first quarter of the 2023 school year, which was 2 years ago, when the students were allowed to have their cell phones at Ramsey and Kimmons. And then if you look at the school year that says 2024, it was last year during the first quarter when they were not allowed to have their cell phones. So if you look at the disorderly conduct row at Ramsey Middle School in 2023, they had 85 infractions during the first 9 weeks. And then last school year, when they didn't have the cell phone, they had 53. And then at Kimmons Middle School, they had 50, and then it went down to 23 the following school year. So each row indicates some of the decreases and improvement in the overall incidents that we saw throughout our two middle schools. It's good to point out that during the first quarter, the students, we were given a bunch of pouches called Yonder pouches, in which the students could put the pouch, the phone in the pouch, and then keep it on their person. It, according to the staff and the principals, for the most part, it was more of a hassle than it was really worth. So the recommendation from the administrators on the campus was just to keep it in their backpack, and everybody can just deal with it as they need to in the event that something comes up where they may need to access it for some reason. So that's the recommendation and that we're going with as a district. How are we communicating this? When this law was first passed and signed into law, Dr. Starr and I, in a principals meeting, talked with the principals about what would be the best way to communicate this information to our families so we know that they are aware of what's going on prior to the first day of school. And so we're going to post everything to our district website, as I stated. We have open houses coming up in which we will go over a presentation at each open house of what the updated cell phone policy is. We are going to make a parent link call to update everyone that may not be able to attend the open house or may not be on Facebook or whatever. And then we'll also include this in both our district and our local handbooks on each campus. So that's how we'll communicate to everyone. And here are the secondary consequences. Along with the secondary principals and myself, we kind of sat down and just thought about what do we need to do in order to address this when it happens, because it's going to happen. Just so you know, we're really going to start this after Labor Day. We're going to give the kids a couple of weeks to kind of get used to everything and give them some passes on stuff, because it'll be a little trial run at the beginning. In the event that a student doesn't have a backpack, we do have lock boxes in the office that they can just turn it in at the office, and then we can check it back out to them if they have to leave in the middle of the day. And in a situation where they're leaving early, like in our own athletic team or anything, we'll still honor that 8 to 3:30 rule and then just allow the coaches to use their discretion at that point. But those are the offenses. So as an example, if a student, after the first offense, we will take the phone for the remainder of the day. We'll notify the parent, and then the student will be allowed to pick it up at the end of the day, and then we'll just go from there. With the last one being just an administrator discretion after the 7th offense. Dr. Starr?
Good evening. It's my pleasure to talk to you a little bit about the elementary side of this. And a very important note for you is that this is not a change for elementary. We have not allowed kids to carry their phones throughout the day, so all of them are pretty used to putting it in their backpack. We did consider the Yonder pouches, but for those of you that are new, we talked about they can barely open their milk carton. Come on now. Let's not do that to our kids. So we also will be going with our secondary friends, and we'll do backpacks. But if backpacks aren't available to that particular child, there'll be a place either secure in the classroom or in the office to make sure that their device is protected until they pick it up at the end of the day. But we are working on really being mindful as elementary principals about the smartwatches, because like I said, the cell phone is not new for us. Smartwatches will be a little newer, so we're going to be looking at that a little closer in the elementaries. So if you're at one of our open houses, they're going to talk a little bit more about the smartwatches, because that's still a two-way communication, and so some parents may not think that it counts, and so we're going to make sure that they understand, and we will be using the backpacks. When a child does get out their cell phone or their smartwatch, there will be a warning for their first offense, and it's a progressive discipline that will continue until they get to the 5th offense. Now, those of you that know my principals in the elementaries, you know they're not going to let it get to the 5th offense before we're going to call parents in and check on that. Because we do have elementary students who have cell phones, and many of them have a reason for that. Some of them might have a medical concern, so they'll be on an exception. So that'll be a little extra conversation, especially our diabetic students, and the other kids going, how come, how come, how come? And then there are also situations where we have kids that have to walk home. And so their parent might have them on that phone walking with them the whole way. And so we'll have to do some conversation, and we're going to work with our kids to make sure that this is the absolute best for them and that they are feeling comfortable and our parents are comfortable. So what we decided to do, and some of you have already seen this if you were here with me before, is I decided to run the report to see, hey, are cell phones a problem in the elementary school? And for the 24-25 school year, we only had a total of 2 elementary infractions. Now, that's not to say a cell phone wasn't involved in another infraction somehow, but pure cell phone incidents, we just had 2 this year. And so we're pretty excited. The principals are pretty well set that they know that what they're going to do, and we're going to have a great school year, even with bell-to-bell no cell. Any questions for either Dr. Jones or myself?
Mr. Whitaker.
I've been anxious to see this data. I don't necessarily know that I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you.
Yes,
But
sir.
it's almost like when you take away distractions, students perform better. It's kind of
Yes,
weird.
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm actually kind of excited about the correlation of cell phones and drugs and vapes, and how we went from 22 to 5. And that said, I know that we've caught a lot of flack as a school board because people who don't understand that this wasn't our decision. This came from our state legislatures. But I support it. Thank you for all the information that you've presented here, and I look forward to the progress that we'll see in our students because of this.
All right, so back to like the sports say. So most of the sporting teams leave early. So they're leaving before 3:30. And a lot of parents will have to communicate, like if they're leaving at a different time or something, or a game's been canceled. And I know we get text message updates, but sometimes not all parents seem to get those. And so what is going to be that with the athletic department?
In the event that something is canceled?
Yes,
I think-
or anything, like they've just changed something, like say you have a B team that no longer is playing, or they've moved a time up. You know, they've done that before too, where all of a sudden somebody's playing earlier or that. So I know that the coaches themselves seem to rely on the kids to get that information out to the parents. So how is that going to be, is that going to become more of the coach's responsibility then?
That's going to have to change.
So.
Whether it's a GroupMe or whatever app that the coaches are using to communicate with the parents, it's just as simple as that. They're going to have to communicate with the parents in terms of any kind of changes along with the school. So I think using like Parent Link, where everybody gets an all call on any kind of change that's made, we're going to have to be a little bit more adamant about that on the secondary level, because we have been relying on the kids because they did have a phone. But there was also a time when we didn't have phones in the schools that we still were able to communicate. So I just think we're going to have to be more intentional about how we're doing that and creating systems to be able to do that.
On that, Lynette, so I've been that volunteer parent helping with cross-country kids, 60 kids in one bus, 20% of them forget something. And so I see a challenge of one coach or even 2 coaches enforcing that. And I would just be cautious in the athletic department and in HR as far as how to support coaches applying that fairly across 60 kids in a chaotic environment of a bus.
I think there's going to be a lot of scenarios come up from this this act that we found ourselves implementing, and that's why people like Dr. Starr and I exist, I think, because as problems come up, new problems will continue to come up, and we're going to work with the principals to make sure we address them. This is new for everybody, so it's going to be a little bit harder for some of them to get used to. And I think as adults and as a staff, we're going to have to be patient with them. But at the same time, there's going to come a time when this is the law, guys, and this is what we have to follow. And I just think that as problems and scenarios come up, we could probably stand in here for the next hour and a half and think of all the scenarios that we're going to probably anticipate. But as they come up, we're going to work with the building principals to make sure that we're treating everybody as fairly as possible. And that really is the best answer I can give.
Another question I have, and this is on the progressive discipline with the elementary, and I realize that principals probably won't let it get to the 5th offense, but the wording does concern me as a parent. The principal may keep the device until the end of quarter. Can you clarify that, or do we have any understanding of?
That's why the word is may, not shall.
Okay.
It would really be, we had a situation last year with a child that the parent wouldn't wouldn't help us with it. They just would immediately say, well, I'm sending it, back. And when we said we were going to keep it for a little bit, they were fine with that too. So it was one of those situations, but that's why it's may and not shall, because like I said, we're never going to let a child get to that level, because in my opinion, and the way my principals feel about the students, there's something else going on there. There's a root cause that child is reaching or needing, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of the needs of that particular child.
One of the largest concerns that we hear, or I have heard, is the communication should an incident happen at school in regards to safety. So can you speak to how you all are working with Chief Huber, Lieutenant Love, about communication? Because so many parents want to be able to say, if an incident arises, I want to be able to have a conversation with my child.
I'm speaking just for me, but that is the last thing we want to happen. We really need them listening to the adult in the room at that time, because we practice these procedures that we have in the event of whatever may be going on in the school day. And I get it. I got 2 kids in this school district. I want to know what's going on too. But I really need them to listen to that classroom teacher or assistant principal or whoever's involved, because every second matters in those kind of situations, and checking your phone really isn't what you need to be doing anyway.
And I know that. I just wanted to hear that verbalized so that when people either watch this board meeting or have a conversation with anyone else in this room, that they know that the reality is safety first, communication second. And maybe I'm misspeaking when I say that, but I mean, obviously we want the safety of our students to be paramount.
I didn't have a phone when I was in school. Are we going back to the old school days of, I'm sick, I don't feel good, I need to call mom, I have to go to the office, and there's going to be an office phone for these students to have access to call? Or is it you step outside of the classroom, get with teacher permission to call mom? Or how is that
At the
going to work?
elementary level, I'll speak to the elementary and let Dr. Jones talk, but at the elementary level, when a child says they don't feel good, we send them
Right.
to the school nurse.
Right.
And usually that's the person that will contact the parent if there's a fever, or if there's something going on at that time. We always want to get them checked out, just in case they are running fever or something like that, when they say, my tummy hurts, my head hurts.
What she
Ditto.
said. She said. Okay, so students were allowed to have their phones during passing periods or at lunch. So if my child had a headache, wanted Tylenol, or doesn't feel good, it was a quick text to communicate. Now, will there be an office phone? They need to go there to contact mom, and there's an office phone accessible for them to use.
Yes, they have an office phone, but what I would encourage all the students, and if y'all talk to anybody, they can still email their parent at any time on their Chromebook. So just, figure that out, the email addresses and stuff, and they should still be able to communicate with them.
Any other questions related to the presentation, or are we ready to move back to the policy language? All right, thank you both. Mr. Nye, welcome back.
So it doesn't sound like there's going to be any additional changes, and so I would encourage the board to vote or move to approve policy 4.47 as amended tonight. So it would then have this language. And then just so you know, one caveat about this policy, part of the statute does require ultimate review and approval by DESE. And so if DESE doesn't like the modification that we've made tonight, they'll let us know that. I think they'll approve it. I think the worst case scenario is they would have us be more precise. But if everybody's comfortable with this, I would suggest let's approve it. Then Dr. Farrer will send it to DESE for review.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve the removed consent agenda items, which include 8.4 ethics disclosure and 8.5 student-related policy changes, with the specific approval of 4.47 as amended tonight. Is there a motion to that effect? Well, somebody-
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's one word. It's easy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Good discussion, board. That passes unanimously. Next agenda item is to go into executive session for discussion regarding real property and personnel, after which the board will return for board member forum. It's 8:25 p.m. The board has returned from executive session. Our final agenda item tonight is board member forum. Board members, our next scheduled regular board meeting will be Monday, August 25th, 2025. We will see each other before then. We've got training coming up and some other fun opportunities. New members generally end each meeting. I'll go down the list and ask if you have anything you wish to share with the board, or ask that something be brought at a future board meeting. Your time, you don't have to say anything, but if you have something you want to share, this is it. So since there are two new board members over here, we'll start over here. Mr. Harding.
Thank you for your patience with my questions. Thank you for the presentations. It was very great, and I think we had a good discussions today.
Ms. Lott.
I'd like to say thank you to all the new board members. This is a very interesting position that you have joined into, and there's going to be a lot of information come at you left and right. And I am very excited about an actual board member training that we did not receive. So this will be good to kind of get everybody on the same playing field.
Welcome back from a long summer for some of us. Welcome new members. Like I said, I keep making that joke that Lynette and I were like deer in the headlights about this time last year. So I love that y'all have asked questions. Please ask, because sometimes it's hard for us to remember what we don't, what you guys don't know when you come. So I love that y'all are asking lots of questions, and super excited about a brand new school year.
Mr. Whitaker.
My favorite event of the year is Launch for Learning coming up, and it's an event that I look forward to time and time again. Look forward to working with all three of our new board members, and I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. This is the absolute best district in the state of Arkansas, and so I'm looking forward to seeing who all can be there Wednesday at our student-based healthcare center. That's a wonderful asset to our district and to our community, and so thank you all for serving.
Ms. Martinez.
I was just going to say great first day.
Ms. Hall.
I hope I don't have to dance at this event, but I am looking forward to going to the event. You don't want to see my dance moves, but great first meeting, and looking forward to a really good school year.
We'll slow down just a minute. I've got a couple of things. First, congratulations to Mr. Mahan. This is his first meeting. There's no acting title there. And our several other newly appointed positions. Welcome all. And then finally, wanted to extend our gratitude to Miss Leslie Phelps. The board is very appreciative of how helpful you've been through a lot of transition lately. And the past group, we got together and we've got a gift for you. So I want to hand this off to you. Yes.
It was a long year last year.
Why don't you come grab it from me, because it's not yet 8:30. Thank you. And there's nothing further from the board. Yes, Mr. Mahan.
I've got 60 seconds. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to our technology team. They've been working around the clock to address this issue, and I'm confident we will get this addressed very quickly, and I appreciate their great work. And I too would just say, please come to Launch for Learning. You're going to love it, and you're going to get to see, like Phil said, the best group of educators and staff members in the state of Arkansas. We're very proud of them. So, and that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, board. We're adjourned.